Hi, welcome to Explorers Club. I'm Miss Mary, the Storytime Programmer at the Faulkner County Library in Conway, Arkansas. And this week we're talking about blankets. So if you watched Mother Goose on the Loose or Where the Wild Books Are this week, you know I've been using my Star Wars Yoda blanket a lot. Yeah, it's so soft and snuggly. But today we're gonna talk about, we're gonna explore a specific kind of blanket called a quilt. So if you watched Where the Wild Books Are, we talked about the difference between a blanket and a quilt when we read Princess Marigold's blanket. So this blanket is kind of two-sided. It has Yoda on one side and green on the other, and it's made out of fleece. This is a quilt that my grandmother made for my great-grandmother. And honestly, I don't remember the name of the pattern. I am not a quilt expert. But look, you can see circles and triangles, and she used this checked pattern, and on the back is solid white. So she put different pieces and sewed them together to make the pattern on the front, and that's a quilt. There's a little bit of batting or fluffiness in between the top part made out of pieces and the solid part on the back. I'm going to show you another quilt. This one comes from my husband's family, and it is, as you can see, much loved. And look, they use scraps of materials to make, I think these are called little Dutch boys. Yeah, and it's very faded, but she used light blue and white and yellow for the hats and different colors of fabric for the shirts to make those. And here is another much loved, well-worn quilt, another one that my grandmother made me right there. And look, she used different pieces to make these circles and these triangles and to make that pattern. So quilts are pretty cool, and if you have one made by somebody in your family, there's probably a story that goes along with it. So today, let me show you how we're going to explore quilts. Got 3 different quilt activities. A paper plate crazy quilt, and this is great for the youngest learner. Then a little bit more advanced, we're gonna use triangles to make a 4-square quilt. And then, a little more advanced, we're gonna use hexagon shapes to make a hexagon patterned quilt. To do these activities, you'll need colors, markers, crayons, colored pencils, whoops, some glue, and some scissors. The rest of the supplies will come in your kit. Sweet Clara in the Freedom Quilt, this was a Reading Rainbow book, and a companion book, Under the Quilt of Night, by the same author. For our very first crazy paper plate quilt, in your packet you will have a paper plate. You will also have some construction paper, and you will also have a little, if you want to use it, you can also use my own quilt sheet, and you can color it and then you can color it and then cut those pieces out. That's how I made these pieces earlier. If you have scrap fabric around your house or old magazines, those are also great to cut up and to use to make your paper plate crazy quilt. And when I taught preschool, this is kind of how we started off. We would give our students a paper plate, and we would use scrap fabric, magazines, construction paper, whatever, and get out those scissors and let those kids cut out shapes, any shape that they want to, and then glue them onto the plate. And I think it's fun because you get to be totally free and do whatever you want. When you get into more complicated quilt patterns, sometimes there are rules. So I cut these out earlier, and as you can see, I'm just going to start gluing them on there. This is a square I designed myself to put on here. And so if your squares overlap, that is a-okay. We're calling it a crazy quilt for a reason. so much fun. And you can use a glue stick, you can use liquid glue, you can use glue dots. It all works. It really, really does. Oh, here's a brown rectangle that I cut out. Oh, ba-da-dum. Oh, here's a smiley face square that I cut out. And you just keep going till you get your quilt the way you want it. Ooh, I like that. Ta-da! So here's the first crazy quilt I made, and here's the crazy quilt I made just now. We're gonna talk a little bit about how quilts can tell stories. You know, I said that if you have a quilt in your family, there's probably a story that goes with it. Well, your little one may be like, what on earth's story is this thing that I just made? But maybe we could ask ourselves, how did I feel when I made this? When I look at this, how do I feel? And I think that the story that goes with my crazy quilt today is the story of how happy I was to get to talk to Asher outside today. And that's what I'm gonna write on the back of my crazy quilt. I'm gonna put today's date, my happy at seeing Asher. Right now you may be saying, but Miss Mary, I'm a bigger kid than that. I need something a little more challenging. Well, then I've got something a little more challenging. We are gonna make a 4-square quilt design. Do you see it right there? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. That's right, all together. And we are going to use 8 paper triangles to make our own quilt design. This is the one that I made earlier. I'm going to make a different one now. But first things first, you can cut this out if you want to. You don't have to. I'm gonna cut mine out, and then I am going to cut out triangles that are the right size. I'm gonna trace them and cut them out on this construction paper. This time, instead of cutting out blue and green triangles, I'm gonna cut out 4 green triangles and 4 brown triangles. I'm going to use triangle templates. I'm going to give them a good trace so I can cut them out. And the triangle templates and the 4-square templates and construction paper will be in your kit. All right, now it's time to decide on our pattern. I made this pattern before, but I think I want to do something a little bit different this time. But I don't know exactly yet what that different is. So it's a good thing to figure it out before you start gluing. And that, I think, is the pattern I'm going to make this time. Now that I've planned out my pattern choice, I'm going to glue it together with my glue stick. All right, so here is the 4-square quilt pattern I made earlier, and here's the one that I just made with you. I bet you can come up with yet a different pattern on your 4-square quilt using 8 triangles. So, you want something even more challenging? You really want to show off those amazing scissor skills? Well, let me show you what's up next? We've got one more quilt activity. Triangles have 1, 2, 3 sides, right? And a square has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. What do you call something that has a shape that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? We call it a hexagon. If it has 6 sides, it's a hexagon. We are gonna make a hexagon paper quilt. So to do that, in your packet, you will have some hexagon shapes to cut out. There's like a sample of how you can put it together, the suggested pattern. And then here are the hexagons. It's a lot of cutting out. It's time to get started. That was a lot of cutting. I am going to make a quilt. I'm going to make the same template again. I'm going to try to put this one in the middle of the page. I'm going to use my glue stick, and I put my red hexagons together with my kind of light pink hexagons. This one has some faint circles in the middle, so we're going to make it our centerpiece. We're going to make a ring of red pieces around it. So let me double check how that'll work. 1, 2, 3. Well, they fit together good. 4, 5, 6. Okay, I can definitely do that part. Time to get gluing. These just fit together like tile, like everything's just, I don't know. This reminds me of something too. It reminds me of honeycomb. I can't remember, are honeycombs 6-sided? Are they hexagons? I'm gonna have to look that up when we're done. But right now, time to glue what all these hexagons are on. After all that cutting and gluing, I need to wiggle my fingers a bit. But there we go. Yep. I love the way those hexagons fit into each other. I wonder if I could cut these out and fit these together. Oh, I bet I could. All right. So I wanted to show you guys a couple of other things that are going to be in your packet. My own quilt design here, and a quilt pattern that you can color. Just one of the reasons I said you need colored pencils or markers or crayon. Now I want to tell you a little bit about some very important quilts and the role that they played in the slaves escaping to freedom as part of the Underground Railroad. The first story, we're not going to read it, but that I want to show you is Sweet Clara and the Freedom Quilt by Deborah Hopkinson with paintings by James Ransom. This was a Reading Rainbow book. Yeah, that sticker is on there. And the copy from our library is super well loved. And there's some special things in here. Do you recognize that? Yep, that's a painting of a quilt. And the author, Deborah Hopkinson, has signed this one. And it's the story of a young slave named Clara who went to go live with her Aunt Rachel, who taught her how to sew. And when she learned how to sew, she started making quilts. There she is with her Aunt Rachel looking at the moon, and they're talking about maps. And then Clara combines map making and quilting together to make a quilt that is also a secret map so that slaves know how to escape to freedom. And the story is wonderful. There's Aunt Rachel being covered up in the blanket, in the quilt, and then there it is in the background. And you can see the lines. Maybe some of those are roads or rivers or other landmarks. Yeah, who knew that a quilt could be a map? So there is a companion to Sweet Clara in the Freedom Quilt titled Under the Quilt of Night by the same author and illustrator, Deborah Hopkinson and James E. Ransom. This one's also pretty well loved. Look at that painting of a quilt. Isn't it amazing? This one is told more in verse, and it has different sections. There's a first section is running, and I want to read to you just very briefly from the watching section. And there they are watching. They're on the Underground Railroad. We run and hide, My cuts sting, my bites itch. I'm hungry all the time. One day at dusk, we make our way to a patch of woods at the edge of a town. There are more houses here, people, roads, danger. The others rest while I keep watch for a sign from the Underground Railroad, the friends who will help us get free. Ooey, 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 an owl trills softly. I stop my breath to listen. Is it really an owl or the railroad's secret code, a sign that a friend is near? Nope, there he is, just a small fat bird with round yellow moons for eyes. I try to be an owl myself, but my eyes hurt with watching. Then I see a woman walk through her yard wearing a plain dress. On her arm she carries a quilt to air. She hangs it over the fence, then looks into the woods just once. I stare with all my might. I know what to look for. In most quilts, center squares are red for home and hearth, but these centers are a dark, deep blue. This house hides runaways. I'm brave enough to go forward first when at last the stars are up. I pull the darkness around me and run through the long, wet grass. My foot trembles on the wooden step, and my knock is shivery and quick, like the beating of my heart. Who's there? Comes a voice. I swallow hard before I give the password. What if I am wrong? But I trust the quilt, so I say, the friend of a friend. And then the next part of this book, and I'm pretty sure that girl is Claire, is hiding, and it starts off, a man and woman let us in. They give us clean clothes, hot stew and biscuits, sweet cherry pie. So both of these books are available for checkout here at the Faulkner County Library if you want to learn more about Clara and the Freedom Quilt that she made, or just learn more about quilting. Thanks for joining me for Explorers Club today. I hope you have fun exploring quilts. If you request the free materials that go with this video, you will get a paper plate, you'll get the design your own quilt sheet, you will get the 4-square quilt sheet, you will get some triangle templates, you will get construction paper, and you will get the hexagon quilt cutouts as well. Click on the link with this video to request your free materials today. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.